Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za. Welcome to the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. Just a reminder that the newsletter goes out this weekend. If you're not subscribed yet, there is a link down below that is on YouTube. I don't think it features on X, and I'm actually not too sure. I think it probably will feature on Facebook as well. But let's introduce you to the panel. It's going to take us through the night. We had a good couple of chuckles already before the show has even started. And I'm going to start at the top there, sipping on what a lot of people are thinking must be straight Coke. It's the Oracle, Gavin Cohen. Gav, welcome, mate. Last week's show was actually, I must admit, I haven't had so many laughs for a while, but there were times where I wasn't sure you're going to make it through.
I made it, thanks to my wife. She woke me up and said, I think you're on Brent's show, you better go on. So, yes, I did miss the first few minutes. I actually forwarded on the link to a few friends and said, I'm actually only on at like minute 15 or 14. I don't know what it was, but I didn't make it in the beginning. So you're saying that that's straight Coke, and it's interesting because I had a lunch today, met two new people, one of them a prominent journalist in South Africa, and he made a comment and said he's off wine. And I said to him, you got to go back to the box. And he said, what do you mean? I said, Chateau de Box, the pub sucks, the box wine. If you're getting tired of that expensive wine, go back to the box where you started. And I looked at him in the eyes because everyone starts in the box because it's cheaper. And you'll start to like the wine again and you'll get back. And the other two guys at the table said, that's good advice. I know, because I've done it before. So, yes, if you're tired of wine, the expensive stuff, go back to the box and you'll be happy.
Solid advice there from Oracle. And then joining us from Auckland, of course, it's Nathan Mossman, the Mossman. Nathan, good to have you back on the show, mate. How things going your side?
Yeah, good. I did notice in your intro that you said the guys to take you through the night. So you're obviously expecting a long one. Is this going to be some kind of marathon where we going to the morning, which may not work for me because I just did a warning. I may get interrupted by childcare duties at some point. We had what we call a miscommunication, which means I was told something but didn't listen. It's just a code word.
Sounds like a lot of our houses there as well. No problem at all. If at any point you need to make a break or anything, you can go. One question I want to ask you, Nathan, just before we get started, because we'll start with NPC, then we'll talk rugby champs, and then obviously Gavin and I'll talk the handicapless Currie Cup after that, and just talk about where we would set the caps. But Nathan, the Women's Rugby World Cup getting going this weekend, is it something that you're going to be looking at or not?
No, I didn't actually know it was on until I spotted something on the TV yesterday. So, I might catch the odd game when it gets down to the pointy end, but from a betting perspective, no. I mean, look, I can understand the kind of attraction because there are probably handicaps on there that are miles out because no one really knows, and those things. I think Oracle's mentioned it before. They provide opportunities, but I've got my hands full with things as it is.
Yeah, well, I'll go through some of the handicaps of Oracle, and you're right. And I don't know if they're miles out or not, but they're some massive handicaps. Minus 64.5 New Zealand against Spain is the biggest one I can see here. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Oracle, of course, you won't really be contributing too much to the NPC. You're welcome to stay and chip in, but you'll be joining us for Rugby Champs. But we're going to get into the NPC quickly just to welcome some of the guys in the live chat. Crow Rugby, Crow, it was great having you on last week as well. I'm here for the magic of the carton boss, says the Crow Rugby. Stefan joins us. Fareed is here, and Werner. Guys, welcome to the show. Look forward to your contributions, those of you who make them, of course. And let's get into the NPC. We've got, I think, 6 games to talk about in the NPC. I haven't had a chance to double-check my typing on that on this, so if I've made any errors, just shout there. Mossman, we've got, first up, I'm guessing tomorrow morning, Hawke's Bay, almost a choice game here. Hawke's Bay over Canterbury. Well, Hawke's Bay plus a half against Canterbury.
Yeah. I haven't been massively impressed by Hawke's Bay. I think that this looks like a spot that I'd lean Canterbury. I've kind of make the line at something closer to 4. And the other thing about this game is there's the potential for a little bit of weather around anyway. This is kind of, for me, another classic sort of free roll spot where I think it's probably an unders game regardless of weather. But there is the opportunity there for a little bit of rain. So yeah, I think it's for me on this one, it's Canterbury and unders.
Canterbury and unders, and the line there is 56.5. Unfortunately, that's the only line I've got at this stage as far as the points goes. Let's move on though to the next game at Taranaki against Waikato. I've got Taranaki here at minus 9.5.
This one's an interesting one because I've seen this before in NPC, that I'm not convinced that the lineup that is being published for Waikato is actually correct, or the lineup that they are intending to play.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that when it initially came out, it was exactly the same as last week's Waikato team. And they had kind of rotated a few people, and when I looked at that, I thought that's unusual that they hadn't brought somebody like Xavier Rowe, back into the starting lineup. So I was a little bit dubious about that lineup. And then at one point it got pulled from the site I was looking in, and then it got added back in, but again with exactly the same lineup. I've got another source which is still showing the Waikato team as blank, and then the other thing was that on social media, there's nothing against Waikato. And I have seen this kind of thing before in NPC, because it is, I guess, being you might go as far as call it sort of semi-professional, that I think sometimes some of the admin in the background is a little bit loose. And there was a game that was like this. I can't remember if it was last season or the previous season, where there was the Bay of Plenty lineup had been published on social media somewhere, and again it was exactly the same as the previous week, and I was like, this doesn't look right, and it wasn't it wasn't the lineup at all, and that actually changed the line on that game quite a lot, and so the line was wrong. So but yeah, whether that actually affects the kind of the outcome of this one, I would still lean Taranaki here. They're a really good team. I was on Taranaki last week. It was one of these spots that seemed farcical in hindsight, that maybe they were laying 1.5 points and ended up winning by 50. So yeah, I think Taranaki here.
Right, Farid is in agreement with you there, and let's move on to the next game. North Harbour plus 11.5 against Tasman, with the early kickoff South African time, 6:35 in the morning on Saturday.
Yeah, this is the one that's really come in the most. There was 17.5 kicking around earlier in the week, and it's sort of come in kind of incrementally. There have been a few lineup changes. I think Mark Talia back for Harbour is obviously good for them. Whaianuku not there for Tasman, but I think maybe it's possibly also a symptom of last week, where Harbour kind of overperformed perhaps in a spot where they were expected to get hammered. So they're probably slightly better perhaps than people thought, despite lacking a lot of big names. And Tasman, I think we might have talked about this possibly even in week one, that they sort of have this star-studded backline, but don't necessarily have the cattle in the type 5. And so I think that's probably why that money has come in the direction it is. I think where it is now is kind of getting close to where I think it should be. But yeah, I think I think there'll be better numbers than that 11.5 out there. So if you could still get the sort of 14.5 that was maybe kicking around, then yeah, I would look to Harbour in that spot.
Right, actually, it's interesting you say that. So I got the prices off Bet Exchange, and I see there is plus 13.5 at PokerBets. As you say, shop around for the best number on that one before getting involved there. This next one, I was just having a look, reminded me that I looked at the early lines without really taking note of them. I just posted them on the forum. There was Auckland minus 6.5 when I posted this, and now see this is into minus 3.5 against Northland.
It opened at 9.5, which okay, in my view was way off. So this one, I think it's a coin flip. I think this is a winnable game for Northland. I think it's sort of 50-50 who takes this one out. This is a real grudge match for Northland. It's the kind of the big brother little brother sort of scenario, and Northland absolutely love to get something over on Auckland, which they have done in recent years. So yeah, like for me, this is a kind of a pick 'em choice game, and so even at 3.5, I like Northland, but I think there's probably better numbers kicking around out there. Auckland they're just not a good team, and they haven't actually been for a few years. They're really trading on a brand name from Auckland teams of the past, and just the fact that it's a name that's very recognizable. But yeah, I think, as I said, coin flip game.
I just have to. I saw Farid's comment. Auckland is due for a win. I know that's not something you would buy into. I mean, you often hear that saying, but the question is a team ever due for something? Ultimately, each game, it's like spinning a coin. Heads, you're due at tails. But in theory, it's 50-50 still the next game type of thing.
Yep, that's a good way to go broke, is expecting that. It was actually there was a video that that Oracle posted the link for, sent it to me.
Yes.
That was the one where, they were trying to get people to bet on a coin flip with the odds in their favor, and they wouldn't do it.
Yes, I must still watch that one. Yes.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a good example of that. But as you said, I think the concept of kind of someone being due for a win is, go and sacrifice a chicken and have a look at the entrails and figure out who's going to win the game, kind of thing. So
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Right, Otago, this one's quite interesting, and I'll say that because when I looked at the handicaps early in the week, this was the only game that wasn't priced up, and I didn't know what the reasoning was for that. But now I see Otago minus 6.5.
Yeah, I like Otago here. I think coming away with in a proper shootout with the win against Wellington last week, Otago are a funny team in that I think they've always had the players, and for some reason not really been able to put it together. Because for a lot of the other teams, they are kind of a split of Super Rugby teams distributed across their region. Otago obviously don't have that problem really, because outside of Southland, who don't have a huge number of Super Rugby players, most of them are concentrated in the Otago team. But they haven't really been able to get it together. But they do have the cattle. They've got the personnel, and counties away from home. And I did notice too that counties, they're missing Riley Hohepa, who's their usual 10, and they've got somebody whose name I didn't recognise. So maybe on debut, I'm not too sure. But either way, I think this is a good spot here for Otago.
Right, I was just popping on to lining up some of the weather sites, and I saw the Undertaker coming in as well. The Undertaker, I want to say, I saw a Facebook post from you. I see your son's got provincial colours in cross country, so congratulations on that one. Right, let's move on to the final.
The Undertaker or the Understaker?
The Undertaker. Yeah, not
that would be impressive. I didn't realise he was a rugby fan, but
yeah, that's true. He could have played a good game of rugby, I guess. Would have been useful.
He probably could. He'd be pretty handy in the line out, I would have thought. Yeah.
I would have thought so. Right, final NPC game, and I see Oracle has popped back in. We'll bring him up now. Manawatu plus 9.5 against Wellington.
I think this one's lined about right. So it's come in a little bit, but it's also bounced around. I think I've seen sort of 11.5 and then 8.5. But where it is now is kind of where I have it. And in under normal circumstances, I think Manawatu, I mean, they're good to watch, but if you look just purely at the results, they've probably been a little bit overrated. I mean, to lose, by conceding 29 unanswered points in the second half to Southland, last week, admittedly after last night, Southland probably not as bad as advertised, but it's just a really underpowered Wellington team. Normally, I think this would be a relatively easy spot for Wellington, but they're missing a few. I think Manawatu, again, local derby type game, they'll be up for it. So I think the line on this one is about right.
Okay, now I'm going to bring Oracle in now. Oracle, last time I said you can ask Mossman a question. You asked 23 questions. Today I'm limiting you to 2. Have you got any questions? Are you on mute, Oracle?
He's on mute.
I have a statement, not a question.
A statement.
You asked me earlier if I'd come on the show, and I said to you, if my memory serves me correctly, I got 3 out of 6 last week, and that should be a platinum prize, because I think the bookmakers got taken out, as well as them. I think they got taken out in all the games except South Africa, where they would have cleaned up, because, I remember having a conversation when South Africa were going to play Japan in Brighton, 2015. And I said to this guy in the office, his name was James, and if he's watching, he'll remember this conversation. I said, "Do you want to steal some money this weekend? I take the 1-33 South Africa." And he said, "I can't do it." And listen, I've stolen a bit of money before on ridiculous prices where teams shouldn't have a price. I didn't take a bet that day. I didn't say anything to him, but I didn't take a bet. And when I saw them win, I thought, I'm going to hear about this on Monday morning, and I did. So, when you guys look at that, some people have said it was, 107 or 0.0071 to 14, however you want to call it in your language. You've got to be very careful of that stuff. You've got to know that they're going to win. And I think a lot of people got taken out, especially, I didn't get anyone send me Betfair graphs, but I've got to believe that at 22-0, South Africa was trading at very close to whatever, not South Africa, but Australia must have been trading at very close to 1,000 to 1 on Betfair, that is, not bookmaker. Bookmakers might have offered, 30, 40, 50, I don't know. But that's a banana peel for some people. Be very careful. I've never seen a game like that, Brent. We were talking about Mossman's game where, the handicap was, or was it one of our, it was the Bulls game where it was 50 points.
The Bulls were minus 29.5 and they lost by 34. This game was different because the Boks were minus 17.5, say, but they were 22 points ahead, and to lose by, 16 points or something, just incredible. Unbelievable.
I'm talking more point to point. So 22, handicap's probably 32, and they lose by 16, very close to 50, not exactly, but it was ridiculous. I was in a pub watching the game with a friend from Joburg, and people said to me, "What do you think?" I said, "It's crazy." I just lost some money on the backgammon table, which I don't lose very often. I'm very good at backgammon, but I lost some money, and I laid the Oak 23 at halftime. I said to him, "You can have not halftime. It was halftime. I gave him 23, and done my money there as well. So I had to dig out some banknotes out of the old pocket. In fact, I had to ask my fee to pay. And he still moaned at me because I was short paying him because I didn't have enough actual cash to pay the Oak. I said, "No, I'll leave it to you tomorrow." So it worked out well. Saw him today at lunch. But I was very surprised at the result. But I'll tell you something else as well, Brent. It's been a while since I watched a live game in a pub, full of people. I would say that, yes, there was a bit of disappointed people, but atmosphere didn't go away that much. It wasn't the level that they would have been had South Africa won the game, but the Oaks weren't shooting themselves in the car park, which I expected.
Except the guy laid 23 to 1 on Australia at half time. Yeah. He was popping himself in the car park.
Correct. So those Oaks weren't at the pub that I was at. It didn't look like anyone was too phased that we lost. I don't know. There was a couple of comments, but I know
on social media. I know none of you guys are massive on the social media side, but a lot of Bok fans have had to eat a humble pie, and with the New Zealanders and the Irishmen, and that are absolutely loving it, in the social media battles. Nathan, what did you make of that game? I don't know if you were watching it, but that is one of the most incredible swings I've ever seen. I'm the only person, or one of the few people who backed Australia and lost money. I backed them to score more than 7.5 first half points. Good Lord. They were absolutely dominated at the start. That never looked like arriving. And then they run up 35 second half points. Nathan, what did you make of that game?
You kind of threaded the needle there in terms of finding
unbelievable.
I
was desperate to do.
I did. I watched it on like replay on delay. But I didn't know the score at the time. So it was kind of for me like watching it live. And it was actually a fantastic watch. Like it was just a really engaging game. And people here were talking about that game like more than they were about the All Black game. Like it really made an impression on people. I had a sort of a customer that was out from Australia, and he was here on Monday, and I was talking to him, and we spent the first 20 minutes of our meeting just talking about that game because it was just really interesting. And I think the other thing that was kind of cool about it was that we're very kind of used to a lot of tries being scored from short range, people just crashing over or mauls or all this stuff. They were all kind of long range tries. Like it was all just sort of champagne football stuff. It was great to watch. And I think just sort of thinking on the betting side, if you had a 17, 18, 19 point, whatever it was, favorite leading by 20 or whatever it was at half time. Then that line is probably close to 30 at that point, because what they would typically do is say, okay, well, if you would expect that a
There you go.
20-point favorite to be leading by about 10 at half time and then 10 in the second half. That's kind of how they look at it when it's being distributed. So if you've already made that by half time, you're probably adding at least another 10 on, maybe 15. So, that it would have been massive.
Absolutely
Yeah,
huge. Well,
Chris saying he
let's
saw
use that to
200
lead us into this game, Nathan. We got a 13.5 handicap this week, and 53.5 points line.
The thing is that I understand that there's been rotation in the Bok team, and that's to be expected. But I think it's not like really drastic changes. They're all experienced players that are coming in for the most part. So this is too big a swing, like in the sense that you don't over one game move the line this much. No team is kind of as good or bad as their last performance. Like that line was what it was for a reason, and one game should not change your opinion that much. And so for this, that it was kicking around that kind of 19-point line last week, it's too much to move it by 6 points over 1 week. Nothing should change that much. So I think there's that, which is just purely from an odds making perspective that I think that is wrong. And I think the other thing is there's probably a couple of narrative based things. One would be a bounce back spot for South Africa. They'll obviously be highly motivated. And the thing is with Australia, and I think we've talked before about teams that kind of go on tours and get a result in the first game that maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit in the second. The Australians are probably thinking this is like mission accomplished. We went and won at Ellis Park for the first time in forever, and that's kind of job done. I think if they could come away from this game with anything like they would think a bonus point would be as good as a win. They may even think that like not getting crushed would be as good as a win. So they must be a little bit tired. They've had a massive start to the season in terms of like high intensity games, and I just wonder whether that might catch up with them eventually. So all of that to me just leads to the South Africa minus.
The minus. I mean, I must say this cap has been pretty solid all week. Maybe moving. I've seen a bit of 12.5, then back to 13.5, back to 12.5. So quite interesting. I haven't had a good look at the Aussie team. Fareed says Aussie's picked a strong team, but I don't think they'll go full out. I'm actually a little bit in the other camp here. I've got to admit, I think Australia are going to push us close. I've always actually deep down been a closet Australian fan. I've loved them since the early days, and that's why it was so disappointing as well to lose on them last week on that first half. But I just think, and I kind of agree, Gavin, I'll bring you in here. Henrik's commenting, and Johan also commented on the points line. Stefan's taken box unders. You down in Cape Town, tell us how the weather's been down there, because to me, when I saw that points line of 53.5, which was also the opening points line at Ellis Park, I'm going Cape Town and Ellis Park, very different places for points. And I'm thinking unders here as well.
So, Brent, I'm driving quite a lot in the Cape region. I've got customers from Simonstown to Saldanha down to Hermanus, Robertson, Wellington, Paarl, Stellenbosch. And I'm going to tell you today, I saw a few new dams show up. And when I say dams, these are the areas on the side of the highway in interchanges where suddenly there's water where there wasn't water before. The amount of rain that came through overnight was... I've got a little pond here, which is connected to the irrigation from the drainage from the roof of the cottage next door. When I got home at 2:30 today, it was still dripping. There was so much water came last night that I saw at least 5 new dams. So the drainage has got to be very good at Newlands. And I get told many times that it is very good, but it rained last night proper. It was double-digit millimeters, and it was a lot of it, and it was a lot of it quickly. There's a lot of water around. There's water everywhere. It dried up at lunchtime-ish, but not the little dams that I saw. But I want to go back to the handicap. So one of the guys at the table at lunch today said he took -11. And you guys will both know they don't tell you the price they took. They could have taken 7 to 10, 6 to 10. But look at 13. I'm in agreement with Nathan. I think a 6-point movement here, or even a 5-point movement on the back of one game, especially everyone's forgetting the start. South Africa came out 22-0. There were a few Hail Marys. In fact, Nathan, if you've got the time and you've got the ability to watch it, go watch the game Brent and I had a bet on, Boerland and Griquas, which was 3 weeks ago. That was a very similar result. They needed 25 points, Brent, I think, to beat the handicap. And they got exactly that.
Yeah, in the last few minutes, yeah.
Very similar kind of game, except the one team did score in the second half. In this case, South Africa didn't. But I'm also a minus punter here. I think this is too low. And it's funny because if it had been the other way around, I would have said, they're going in the half felt, they're going to be in a bit of trouble. They had no problem with that. I think South Africa didn't know what to do last week. They hadn't been in that position for a while, behind the 8 ball, or with 20 minutes to go, they were in a boat race and they didn't know what to do. They normally expected to be winning, and Rusty's made a few changes. I like the minus here. I'm not as big as I was last week. I'm a smaller punter this week, but I definitely like the minus. And to go back to what Henrik said earlier, and I think it was Fareed, go under on points. I'm going to say go under on Australia points here. I don't think Australia score the points that they're supposed to score. I think South Africa probably do a little bit better than they expected to, but I think the result will come here. Australia won't score as many as they did last week. Obviously, they're not going to score. Sorry. I believe they won't score as many as they did last week, not obviously. I like the minus here, but I'm not a strong punter on this.
Well, I can tell you the South African points run.
One more statement to make, Brent. Do you think we had a bit of a camp Staldrad, whatever it was called, that dude in the early 2000s? Do you think they went and bollocksed them and gave them a whipping and got them into some cold water and made them swim with crocodiles to get away from all the demons of losing a high-profile game? We're not inside the camp. We have no idea.
I'll answer that. What I believe the answer to that is no this week. But what I do think happened, and I heard a few reports about it, I think South Africa possibly had some huge fitness sessions last week, because yes, we burnt ourselves out in the first few minutes, but I've never seen some of our quick guys look so sluggish as they did in that second half. So I think it might have been a misjudgment, and I've seen it happen with England once before, where they went into a game on the back of heavy fitness sessions, and by the last 20 minutes, their legs were just that bit heavier, and that I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But yeah, I think hopefully the days of the old Staldrad are behind us there. But Nathan, you got anything to add on this one?
It's interesting that you say that, because that's Suali'i intercept, and I thought, he's going to get run down easily, because he looked like
he's going to get run down, no doubt.
And then the guy that was chasing him, which I think was Van der Merwe? I'm not sure how you say it, but he looked like he was on Baywatch as well. Like everything was in slow motion, So it was.
That's great.
And I always say the guy who's running with the ball, if Gavin and I are of equal speed, and I've got the ball, and Gavin's slightly behind me, he'll catch me, because you can run faster without the ball. And also the guy that's looking behind him, you've got to. And yet, when Suali'i got that ball, I thought he was going to get caught by the 22. And he just kept on going. And I got that feeling a couple of times in the game, and whether it was just because they were burnt out, or I don't know, maybe. I mean, Australia do have a lot of speed as well, but what do you think of the unders play there, Nathan?
Yeah, I make this the line 50. So if you've got if you're kind of leaning minus and leaning unders, then exactly what Oracle said, that the logical kind of play is Australia points under. And I don't actually know exactly what that is, but for me that would
20 and a half 20 points.
Yep.
You're not getting 20 points.
No, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's probably a good play. I did have I just wondered about this as a theory, and admittedly I might be a little bit biased towards the good old days of Super Rugby, but when I think about the current South African team, which is obviously got some almost generationally good players from South Africa's perspective, but they all kind of came up and learnt their rugby playing Super Rugby, right from front to back. If you went through Marks and Etzebeth and Khaleesi and Pollard, Delende, Creel, Colby, you name it, like all of those guys, they all came up playing in a really difficult tough Super Rugby competition. And now you've got South African players, playing against the Dragons and Zebre, and then the other half of them are in Japan, and we all know what the standard of rugby is like in Japan. I just wonder if there's any concern that when this current crop of players gets too old, that are the next generation prepared in the same way that those guys were?
I think it's actually that's a hell of a good point. I haven't actually heard it said that way. I would, because I've often thought as well. One thing about Super Rugby, I mean, you'll get guys who will argue about the strength of the various competitions. But one thing about Super Rugby, it's played at one hell of a pace. And I thought this year in particular was quick. And South African teams are, if you look at the URC, it's a much slower pace. The game's constantly stopping. And I wonder, to that point of yours, but just taking it at a slightly different angle, are those South African players as prepared for a quick game, a game played at high pace like the Ellis Park game was, as opposed to the Super Rugby teams who, quite frankly, play at pace every week there? So, yeah, I think that's a hell of a good point. Do you have anything on that from your side?
Yeah, I didn't think about it much until we've had a couple of seasons of URC, and I think he's onto something. I'm not going to say he's right or wrong, but he's onto something. And I think one thing that I used to get irritated with is we went over there for 4 weeks. They never went for a 4-week tour. Yes, they went to Australia, but that's like us going Cape Town to Joburg, or Joburg to Durban. The distance is very similar, a couple of 1,000 kilometers, and you're there. And I think this URC is we going over there 3 times. If in Super Rugby, we had to have gone to New Zealand for 2 weeks, come home for 4 weeks, gone back to Australia for 2 weeks, we might have done a little bit differently. It might have been in our favor. I think the fact that we've won a couple of these tournaments already is that we're not going over there for 4, 5, 6 weeks, or even 3 weeks, whatever. We're not going for a long time. Yes, there's a time zone issue. I do understand that, but I do think that these shorter trips are probably better. I think that these Irish and Scottish and Welsh teams are coming over here with half-strength teams. So the games we're watching locally here in South Africa are not the best of their players. They're not coming over here because they won the tournament already, because they only have to make one long trip. So maybe send them down for one game, send them back, and send them for another game afterwards. I don't know. But I do think that we have enough of competitiveness. I go back to the Pumas and the Griquas, but never mind the name of the team. We could put together a couple of teams to play in this Super Rugby competition. If Australians and New Zealanders are listening, we've got so much talent in South Africa that they don't even get. I mean, that Boland team could go and put up a fight over there. Yeah, would they win? Probably not, but it doesn't matter.
I disagree, Gab. I disagree with you.
No, but we've got so many.
I think they get absolutely hammered in Super Rugby, Boland.
Fair enough, but we've got 300 plus, 400 plus players in
we've
Europe.
Got depth.
We've got them.
I think we've got depth, but I think Nathan's point's an interesting one, because yes, the players that we're always going to have the players coming through. There's no doubt about that. But was the Super Rugby sort of breeding ground of the players, or education for the players? Was that actually better maybe than URC?
Yeah. And are they getting tested?
And I think you could get two scenarios there. Hey?
Yeah.
Sorry, Nathan?
I was just going to say, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is it's not so much about talent; it's about, are they getting tested? Like, is it a good breeding ground for test match players? To come and to New Zealand and play against Crusaders in Christchurch was, like a very tough test, and you learned a lot of lessons from doing that. And the South African teams that came out were good. Like, I've mentioned it before, but the Lions team that they put together that, went to 3 back-to-back finals, that was a great team, stacked full of good players. The teams that they're putting out in the USC are like, they're not at that standard. That Lions team, from that period would absolutely clean up, against the kind of current crop of URC teams. That's kind of where I'm coming from, is that there was the competition was a good breeding ground. It was more, they were tested, I think, more on a week-to-week basis. And and I just wonder what that means when that current crop of players kind of moves on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it. Interesting debate. And as I said, I thought there was an interesting point of discussion there. But let's move on to the next game. Gab, I'm going to start with you. Argentina up against New Zealand. I must say, I didn't really. When I say I was despondent after the Australia game, I didn't have such a big bet on the game, but it was just that I felt I'd really missed out by like threading the needle and not getting something on Australia, because I did like them on the handicap as well. The Argentina game, I had a small bet on Argentina at like 7-2, and I left it at that. I didn't get further involved in the game, and I actually didn't watch all of the game. What do you think of this one? We've got a handicap that's open plus 8.5 for when I saw it, and it's out to plus 10.5 Argentina now against the All Blacks.
Yeah, sorry, Brent. I just want to say one more thing. When we went to Europe to play URC, everyone talked about same time zone, all of that stuff. But for some reason, we're still flying to Qatar and Dubai to fly to London. I don't know if they're trying to save a bit of money, but that seems silly to me. The idea is fly straight. We're 2 hours behind. Get there. And I've flown to London to watch South Africa play England at Twickenham. Flew Friday night. Arrived in the morning. Had a few beers. Watched the game. Watched the Premiership football game. Flew back on Monday. It was easy. I had no jet lag at all. And the way I'm being told is that these South African rugby teams, the URC teams, are flying via Asia to get to England. I don't know what they're doing, but that does make a big difference. So I'll carry on with this game. I just think that, I don't know, South Africa, get a plane. Just get an aeroplane. Fly everyone over, bring them back, and I don't know, a team that's there, bring them back the next week, bring the next team, so on. I don't know. I think it's pretty silly what they're trying to do, and they're trying to fly everyone business class, get a small plane that takes 50 people and fly them when we're all done. I don't know. Anyway, right, back to this game. So last week I took the minus here. I told you that I wasn't Argentina.
You were both strong on the minus, I remember that.
Also, it comes on the back of me backing Argentina so many times in this fixture and losing. And, I mean, Henrik's watching. He'll remember the night I sat with an Argentinian shirt, backed them at 22-10, and I was very staunch on Argentina in that match. The reality is I had this chat with a guy this week. Argentina play so much better when they play South Africa at home than they do New Zealand. For some reason, they seem to think like this is the Goliath. We'll try. If we fail, we're out. They've never won at home against New Zealand. And I think, and if they have, I do apologize. I don't remember that happening. I think they just accept it and go, well, we'll try again next time. Whereas they've got this beef against us and they want to beat South Africa and they'll go full on for it. So I'm a minus punter again this week. 10 is not enough. I think New Zealand this could be 20, 25 points. And this is practice for New Zealand. And what's going to happen is when we get together with New Zealand, everyone, let's assume I'm wrong and the Australia game's close. South Africa wins, Australia wins, whatever. It's a close game. We're going to get to a situation where New Zealand are going to be minus 10 against us when we play over there. And I'm thinking this is bad because this New Zealand winning in Argentina, to me, is almost as if you're just ticking a box. There's no effort. They've not even, in my betting memory, they've not come close to losing this game. And when they've been behind earlier on in the game, New Zealand have always come and raced away with it. So for me, this is a minus or it's a no bet. Don't touch Argentina. Yeah, it's not worth it.
Interesting, Gav, because I agree with you. Argentina seem to struggle against New Zealand at home. But I don't think it's a case of, these guys are too good. Because, they can beat New Zealand away. It's just, for some reason, they don't seem to get it right at home. I agree with you on that one. Nathan, what are your thoughts on this one? We got a points line, by the way, of 55.5.
Yeah, I think in a funny way, this game illustrates why the South African cap is wrong. Because I say wrong, but obviously that's just an opinion. I mean, the market is never really, really wrong. You can sort of favor one side or the other, but I mean, the line last week was around about this. It was, maybe 9.5, maybe 11.5, but right around where it is. It might have moved a point, and it's moved a point after, a pretty solid kind of victory, right? But it's not moving. It wasn't like the All Blacks won by 14, so we need to move this line 10 points. It moved a point. The idea being that.
But remember, the line was only beaten by 5 points last week or 6 points. So the Australia line was beaten by 32 points.
Yeah. No, I get that, but it's there's no sort of large adjustments where you say okay, well, we're sort of clearly wrong on this. And I think that in general is the smart way to think about it, is that it was that from week to week, a line is going to be mostly right because the teams are who you thought they were. Like they haven't drastically changed in 1 week. Like we didn't, swap in and out a completely different team. Like it wasn't like they're reliant on one star player and that player got injured or something, like things that would actually cause like drastic moves in lines. None of that happened, and it didn't happen in this line. It's kind of like, yep, what happened last week was kind of, par for the course. We don't need to change anything. So, and I think that's probably where casual punters will go wrong, is that they'll look at a previous week's result and go, oh, this team absolutely hammered this team. Well, if they're playing them again and they won by 20, well, then, the line should be 20. It's like, well, no, because, one week means nothing. So that's a long way of saying, I think this is actually, it's the right line. I'll make it about 11. 10.5. I wouldn't touch that one personally. Like, that's me. The points line, yeah, that's actually pretty close as well. I was actually on the under last week, which didn't feel like a runner at all. But in general, I think for international games, I will always kind of look under, and I think that the kind of overall trend is generally to the under as well. So. Yeah, it's too close for me to play it right now. But the thing is, what you find is that you can wait till closer to kickoff, and there's almost this inevitable kind of rise in points lines. Because what happens is that the casual punter just wants to bet over. People want to bet for exciting games. They don't want to bet for boring things to happen. Whereas as a better,
he's not talking about you, Henrik the Undertaker. You like a boring game.
Oh, no,
I agree with you, Nathan, 100%.
I actually love a boring game. I was on the under in last night's game. And at halftime it was like 7-6, and 20 minutes gone it was 0-0, and I was like, this is fantastic. I was loving it. Nothing had happened. And that's just people generally, like, they just want to see exciting games, and so they'll bet overs. So that's kind of like just a general trend. So yeah, I can't see myself being involved in this game actually in any way.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about a Currie Cup and Rugby World Cup ladies now, Gab. So we'll say cheers to Nathan and say, Nathan, yeah, you didn't get called away at any point, but thanks a lot. And what are your maybe strongest fancies on the weekend?
Oh yeah, good question. I mean, we've talked kind of ad nauseum about that South African minus, and also probably on the points. So yeah, it probably is the Australian points going under, and then I think in the NPC, there's probably quite a few, but I'll stick my neck out, and as I said, I think that Northland Auckland game is probably a coin flip 50-50. So any kind of decent plus money that you can get on Northland, I would look in that direction.
Excellent. Well, Nathan, thanks very much, man. Great having you on the show, and enjoy the rugger this weekend.
Nice one. Thanks, guys.
Excellent.
See ya.
The Moss Man coming to us live there from Auckland, of course, Friday morning his time. It's still Thursday night here in South Africa. And Gab, we got a bit to talk about. Now, unfortunately, and the guys in the live chat can comment if anyone has seen any Currie Cup handicaps. I'm happy to take from any bookmaker if you can see them. But let's actually start then with the ladies Rugby World Cup. I'm going to bring up the betting. I don't know if you'll be able to really read it, but I'll bring up the betting here. And I'm gonna skim through it, Gab, because so I've got England against the USA. England minus 53.5. They're the firm favourites. By the way, I've got a bet in this. I've got a bet that I'm going to give you at the end of this Women's Rugby World Cup chat. I've got a bet. But what do you think? England against the USA, 53.5. USA aren't actually mugs, but England are just, well, they're the firm favourites to win the tournament.
Yeah, so one of the things I always look at, one of the places I always look at, is the flash score shows a head-to-head. They show the last few games of each team, and then they show the head-to-head between the teams. And yes, USA haven't come close. They've had an 89-0, which was a few years ago. They've had a 52-14. And the USA in the last game scored 21 points. So you said this was 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. 53. I'm not having a bet, but the minus looks like it's a runner, but nothing for me. 53 looks right.
Okay, yeah. Australia up against Samoa, minus 35.5 Australia.
35 sounds too low, but let me have a quick look. Yeah, listen, for everyone watching, I've had women's rugby bets before. I've been okay. I wouldn't say I'm down or up. I can't really remember either way, but I'm definitely interested in the South African games. I will be betting on those, and I think there's a little bit of value, and we'll talk about that just now. The other thing to note here is, this is an example. I mean, these are neighbors in the Pacific. They haven't played each other, which is odd. South Africa beat this Samoa team 33-7. Last year, South Africa played Australia at home. Yeah, I don't know how strong the team was. Lost by 7. That might be a bit too much, 35, so maybe a plus. But again, nothing. Let's just talk about them straight up. That Scotland, Wales, there's enough information on the internet to figure that out. I won't look at it now. Canada, Fiji. Canada, one of the best teams in the world in women's rugby. 51, is that what it says, Brent? Sorry,
I'll give you the handicap, 51.5. Yeah, sorry, I know it's hard to read on there. 51.5.
Samoa, who are a big plus early on, smashed this team by 40. So Canada minus for me, just off the bat, without even looking any further. Is that France, Italy, 38? Sorry, 20.
20.5.
Yeah, again, it's a Six Nations game. Go and have a look. You'll find the stats there. I'm looking for the outsiders, and I'm going to tell you the first one is, I don't know what to do with Ireland, Japan, 21. I don't know. You know what, Brent? Let's watch a week of this. I'll have a lot more information next week. I'm guessing at this point. I'm looking.
100%. That's why I said I'll bring it. I asked. I said we skim through it because I don't expect anyone to have firm views in the specific. I can tell you where I think there could be some value though. I think first of all, I think points lines are going to be interesting because obviously keep an eye on the weather there and all the rest of it. And I think going unders on the big underdogs points is going to be the way to go. I think teams like England and New Zealand are going to have their defense is going to be too strong. So I'm expecting USA to be about 10.5 points here. Let's have a quick squiz here. Okay, they haven't got USA points up here yet on Bet Exchange, but I'm saying England don't concede like 2 tries. Like, if USA are lucky, they get one. So my strategy is going to be looking for, particularly if conditions are not great, going to be looking to go on the underdog unders. That similar to what you would be saying in Australia, South Africa. I'll be looking to go on the underdog unders. But I got a bet for you. And I'll skim through the other handicaps quickly. South Africa minus 46.5 against Brazil. I can tell you the big game for South Africa is their second match against Italy, because the way it works to make the quarterfinals, you've got to finish in the top 2. Now we are. are we with New Zealand or Canada or anyway? We're with one of the big guns. The reality is our game against Italy, the loser goes home and the winner is going to go through the quarterfinals. If you look at the outright betting, we are going to probably start. It looks like we'll start slight underdogs. I think we can beat Italy. I really think the South African team are very well drilled. We cannot beat England. We cannot beat the New Zealand, but we can give a couple of the other Six Nations teams in that a bit of a scare. And I think we can beat Italy. But there's a bet I like here, Gav, and it's going to sound almost a little bit crazy because of it's not a great, it's not going to sound like a great price or anything, but I'm going to pull it up here quickly. Women's World Cup. And the bet I like, okay, there's the outright betting. The bet I like is the straight forecast. England to beat New Zealand at 19-20. Now, obviously, that's a long way out, but the reality is I can't look past these 2 teams, and I can't see past that England win in the final. So I actually think, as much as you'll have to wait for your money, I think a 19-20 is actually quite a good bet in the straight forecast, simply because I can't see any of the other teams touching the top 2. And that's just based on, I have watched quite a bit of women's rugby, and just don't see it. I see these 2 making the final. I see Farid says Canada can. Perhaps Canada could be the team to give a bit more stick. I see South Africa were beaten by Canada, but they gave them something to think about there. But personally, I'm going England to beat New Zealand in the final. That's my one proper play for the tournament. What do you think of that one?
I'm going to give you even money right now. I can't take these odds on with 3, 4, 5 weeks to go. I'm happy to lay that. I'll give you 11 and 10.
11 to 10. I'll stick. What do you want me to stick on?
Whatever you want.
500. I'll stick 5. We won't go mad. I'll take 550 to 500. I'll take it. Let's take even money. Make it simple. Even 500, Gav. Even 500.
I'm happy. I owe you coffee for the other one or beer for the other one. You won the beer, so you won the 50. So, in fact, I'll give you 600 to 500. There you go, because you got the beer already. So that's fine. Right. Let's go back to the South African game. I want to point out something that I noticed a little bit earlier. I did a little bit of research earlier before the show, and I was primarily looking at the South African game, and I thought I could race through the other ones a little bit easy, but I didn't. So when you go onto Flash Score, and you click on head-to-head, the H-to-H. In fact, show it. Let the viewers see this. Go to Flash Score, click on Rugby, and I want to show you something that I've never seen before. This is this is very interesting, and I think a few people would quite like this. Go to Flash Score, look at the Rugby, and go to just click on the left-hand side, Women's World Cup. And you'll get the fixtures if it should be on your list. If it's not there, click on fixtures. No, that's fine. And then click on the South Africa game. The South Africa Brazil game. Very interesting what you're about to see. And then click on head to head. H to H.
Let me just make it a bit bigger.
I've not seen this before.
What are you showing me here, Gav?
Scroll down.
Oh, it's further down, is it?
No, carry on going. Yeah, exactly. According to Flash Score, Brazil women have played 2 games against Netherlands. They obviously played games to get into this World Cup. And I don't know if this was it. Maybe this was it. But what's our minus here, Brent?
46.5.
Take the minus. This team doesn't have enough. They don't have a button that says show more matches. And that straight away tells me, just get in. This is a minus. This could be 80, 90. And let's not go with salaries here or granny's pension. Have a bet. I like the minus here purely because there is no data. And it's not because there's no data. It's because it doesn't exist.
And then I just want to ask the guys in the live chat, because Fareed was mentioning Canada got a chance. Which side of the draw are Canada on, Fareed? Are they on New Zealand side or England side? I know England and New Zealand are drawn to meet each other in the final, but I can't remember which side of the draw Canada are on. Because, I agree with the comments on England. I think they are going to win it last. I watched the last Women's World Cup. I actually really enjoyed it. And, in the end, I actually backed New Zealand, I think, at 22-10 or 28-10. And they somehow beat England. But that, of course, was in New Zealand. This tournament is taking place in England. But Gav, let's move on to a bit of Currie Cup. I don't have any handicaps, unfortunately. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the game. You tell me what your handicap would be, and not what you think necessarily where you think the bookies are going to price the game. And I will then tell you what my handicap was on the game.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any of that, so I don't know. But I'm going to.
No, that's fine. And look, there are no handicaps. So let me give you the first game. So my computer is flipping, which is let me just go
Pumas
to the first.
Pumas and Cavaliers Friday afternoon.
Pumas and Cavaliers. How would you handicap that?
-3 Pumas.
Okay, so there's going to be a big difference between your handicap and mine here.
I'm going to revise actually because I heard myself there. I'm going to go level game here. Level game. 9-10 the pair. Okay.
So what I'm going to suggest is the guys who are watching in the live chat, I'm going to give my handicap, you're going to give yours, and they're going to tell us which hand.
You put the comments up there. I'm going to tell Johan he's 6 points too high. He needs to go under. It's going to be 0-0. We haven't seen that, eh? Norway and Germany, I remember, were 0-0 in 2000, 2001. I haven't seen a 0-0
Is it?
draw in
Okay, no,
rugby.
you don't.
Game, but this is a runner.
But I'm gonna say, so you saying a choice game. I'm gonna give you my handicap, and I want the guys in the live chat to say who's going to be closer, not in the final score. I don't care what the final score is.
Yeah.
Where's the handicap? I handicap this game Pumas minus 16.5, and you make it a choice game. That shows you why the bookies don't. But this shows you why the bookies don't handicap the games themselves, because there's so many differences of opinion. So let's see if they agree. So Henrik says 10.5, so he's closer to me. He's slightly closer to me. He's probably close to where the line will be based on a middle of ours. But the guys anyone else who's going to be closer? Stefan says split the difference and call it minus 8.5. That's probably going to be close to the mark there.
I'll tell you afterwards. Why do you say 16? Why are you so high? That sounds huge to me.
Look, I think the Pumas. I think the Pumas are a top team. They did beat the Bulls by 34 at Loftus. I think the Cavaliers, as good as they are in Wellington, and they gave a good account of themselves against the Griquas in Kimberley as well. But I don't think the Cavaliers. I think they're going to run out of steam potentially they're not going to be the same team on the road. I think if I get a choice game here, or if I can get even minus 6.5 Pumas or whatever, I'll absolutely be piling into this. Probably get my weekend off to a terrible start. But I'm going. I think the Pumas. Yeah, I make them strong favourites here. So, yeah. Interesting one, and looks like the guys are sort of coming in the middle of us here, Gav, and saying somewhere down the middle at the 8.5.
Okay, that's interesting. So, originally, I said obviously 3, and I thought to myself, but I like this Boland team. I don't know, maybe I'm seeing something other people aren't. And Brent, the only game I lost on Boland was the bet I had with you when they were well ahead and ended up, they lost that second half 29-5 and just got you up. And, that's probably out of, what have they played now? They've played 5 games. Is that right?
Yeah, 5.
2 left.
4. 3 at home, 1 away.
Right. So I'm going to say Boland have won 7 halves and lost 1. And that was the half I lost to you. I think this is a good team. And yes, you could look at that blemish and you could look at that result. But I'm going to tell you, whatever plus they come out with here, whatever plus they come out with, I'm a Boland punter this weekend. I like them. I do like them. Am I a bit swayed, slightly biased? Probably because I've won money on them and they've made me money this Currie Cup season. In fact, Boland have tipped me over the line to being in the profits for the games that I have lost so far. So I have to thank them. I've read them well. I like them. I'm not going to go ballistic here. There's no 5-unit bets. But I'm a Boland punter this weekend. I'm going to say anything over 5.5, I'm a Boland punter. I think this game will be close. Could they win? Of course they can. If they lose by a few, I wouldn't be surprised. If they lose by 16, I will be surprised. I'm a Boland punter here.
Right. Johannes is saying, and he makes a point, Pumas as big favourite, you've got to be sceptical. I agree with you, Johannes, except I would only apply that rule to game.
I mean, they're the wrong favourite in that game the Lions last week. I don't know where they got that. The point I want to make with Johannes at 6 points. The Pumas, that they made them favourite by, what was it last week? 8, 9, 10?
I think it started 6.5, 5.5. They started off plus 8.5. But the point I want to make for Johan here is we've often said that the Pumas are not great as favourites, but I will say that those are normally games where they're playing against teams where they wouldn't normally start favourites. Yep. Whereas against Cavaliers, I think would normally be favourites. I'm not concerned about that this week. If I can get anything under 10, I'm climbing into the Pumas on the handicap there. But let's move on to the next game, Gav. It's a 3-3 draw according to Johan. We got the Sharks up against Western Province. What is your handicap in this game? The Sharks, of course, at home.
I can't pick a winner. And I'll be honest with you. I'm not putting money on this game. Not interested. I will watch it, but I'm going to say you can go unders here. I'm going to call Henrik here and ask him what he thinks. But I'm guessing they probably go 50, 55, maybe. I'm going to say anything over 40, you can go under. I think these two teams do not score points. They've been so bad. If anything, this could be a 19-all draw. It could be a 12-all draw. And if one team wins by 5, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not picking a winner. I can't pick a winner. And I'm not prepared to put my money on this game. Watch it, have a bit of fun. But I do think, and I'm not a big points punter, I don't think there's a lot of points here. I think they're so rubbish, both of them. Rubbish versus rubbish, which got me into trouble with a mate of mine. I'd been to his wedding, and afterwards he was a Bulls fan. I called Bulls cheaters, rubbish versus rubbish on YouTube all those years ago. Oak still doesn't even talk to me. So no offense taken here. But Sharks versus Province this weekend Currie Cup is rubbish versus rubbish. Hashtag on both sides, one at the top, one at the bottom. Go under, and exactly what Lawando 007. Seriously, find the biggest price you can on the draw here. There might be some mug bookmaker out there offering you 33-1. Get on. Just take a punt. Don't try and pick a winner here. Watch the game with a beer in your hand, pick the draw, and go under on points, and you should be fine. There we go.
So as a matter of interest,
2.5 tackle. Exactly. Stefan, that's what we need to see. Bookmakers need to be innovative. Come up with stuff like that for a game that really nobody can pick a winner.
Yeah, the only thing is, if we're going to go if we're going to go over on missed tackles, we probably got to expect points in the game if there's a lot of missed tackles. So it could be interesting to see.
They'll drop the ball afterwards, so it doesn't matter. They won't score the try.
Right, well, let me. I haven't had a chance to give you my handicap yet for this game. I actually kept this game plus 3.5, so we're not that far out. You're plus 3.5 Sharks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This is 3. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody said -3 on one team, -3 on the other. I think this is very close to level. And honestly, if you're good enough to find a winner, good luck to you. I can't. I'm admitting defeat.
I think Henrik is right when he says this is. I think Henrik, you're going to be close here with your choice game. Right, Gavin. The next game, Cheetahs at home to the Lions. How are you capping this game as a bookie?
Cheetahs were disappointing last week, Brent. They really were. I'm going to say Lions are probably going to start at -5 or -6, and I think they win by 10 or more.
Okay, so we're not too far out in terms of the handicap. Yeah, I made Cheetahs plus 3.5 at home against the Lions, so we're not too far out here. Let's have a look. In fact, Johan is in exact agreement with me. And interesting, Henrik has the Cheetahs there as favourites. So what this does show us, though, you can actually, not that there's any excuse for not being out with handicaps yet, but you can see how difficult this Currie Cup is to handicap compared to, like, if you told us Argentina, New Zealand, we're going to all cap it within a 5-point range, you know. But here, I mean, you and I were 16 points different in some. Here we got Henrik. He's 10 points different from say some of the others. It really is tough to handicap. So anyway, I'm going Cheetahs plus 3.5, and the last one, Bulls at home to Griquas.
This is the same as the South African game, Brent. After losing that game, the Bulls are going to come absolutely flying here. Griquas, you remember the game they lost? Can you remember that? When the Griquas beat them with put a human on the field, and he was celebrating, and I think it was 40. The handicap was 40, and they won the game. And I punted them. Plus, I didn't back them to win the game. And I was just, at one point I had that Oak's phone number on my phone. I don't know. I think the Griquas have done well as well. I mean, they beat that Boland team. Bulls losing last week. I'm seeing a couple of single digits coming on screen. I don't believe it's a single digit handicap list. I think this is closer to 12 or 13, maybe 14. But I'm a Griquas punter. So at 8.5, Henrik, I probably am a Griquas punter. I think the bookies will come with double digits here. Somewhere between 12 and 15 is my expectation. But I'm a plus punter.
Okay, so that's interesting because I actually did cap this game 15.5. Once again, this is where I think the bookies are coming out. I would also probably be looking at Griquas or Griquas points at those levels, but I thought it would be high. So interesting to see. And we'll keep an eye. I wonder when the bookies are going to come out. Unfortunately, I've got meetings I've got to go to tomorrow morning, so I'm probably only going to see the lines maybe an hour or so before the game, unfortunately. But yeah, it's actually been quite an interesting show. Having a look at everyone handicapping the game before anyone's actually seen it. This is also at the Tainer Rugby Club in Pretoria. Is that Stefan? Is that where they play in the game? I didn't realize they weren't playing. That's interesting. I didn't realize that they weren't as long.
I like that.
The Grizzlies. Okay, yeah, interesting. I did not realize that. So I certainly do like the fact we've discussed that before. Right, well, we've had a good chat there in the end, Gav. I mean, obviously, can't really call a best bet in the Currie Cup, seeing that we don't have any lines. But I guess from your point of view, Rugby Championship, what's the best bet? The box minus?
I like the box minus, Brent. I'm not massive on it. I just think that, it is a knee-jerk reaction. In fact, it's a big knee-jerk reaction. I can't remember, I don't know about you, but I can't remember a handicap moving so much in 1 week from one result. I think, everyone's looking at that as being Australia winning the game by 16, but the reality is it was 22-0, and then it was 38-0. That's really what we saw last week. It's almost like it was one game and another one. I just think that, they were shell-shocked. There were a couple of loose passes. We saw that with that Cricker's Boerland game you and I had the bet on. I just think South Africa are not that bad. You know what? Sometimes you need a game to bring you back to earth. A Federer or Nadal, they need to be clapped 6-love, 6-1, that kind of thing, and you bounce back after it. I don't think it's close. I think South Africa win comfortably. Is it my best bet? No, it isn't. I like Boerland. I like Lions. Again, depends on the handicap, and maybe we can I can post it and you can put it on the forum if you want to when the handicaps come up. But I've made more money on the Currie Cup so far than on these internationals, so I'm happy. Boerland's made me a lot of money. Yeah. I was chatting to guys at lunch today, and they said, Currie Cup. I said, bro, there's money to be made. You've got to read it properly. And bookmakers don't know what they're doing with this tournament. I've been there from the 90s pricing up and betting on this. They don't know what they're doing. And we know the 23-year-olds that are sitting in Switzerland or Germany and algorithms, they weren't even born when... we're talking about banana boys today, and I used to work at Cattleman on the Durban beachfront. I got a T-shirt made with a banana sticking up at the Blue Bulls' arse, and he was selling them, and people were buying those shirts. That's when Natal had come out of the B League and gone into the A League. That particular match they didn't win, but that's where we know Currie Cup from. You and I, this is what we watched since we were kids. We know this tournament. Yes, has it changed? Of course it has. But we always watch it, Brent. We watch it every year. We make the comments and we still make money.
We love it, and we also love betting on the Currie Cup as well. Just quickly to go through your hundred treble. South Africa, Australia under 53.5. So I haven't got my newsletter out yet, but I think it might come out. Now, the problem is bringing with the Currie Cup odds out so late. But honestly, I like the unders in South Africa, Australia 53.5, quite strong. Argentina plus 10.5, Taranaki minus 9.5. Currie Cup treble, Griquas Lions and Boerland there. Gab, I'm going to call it quits. Got a bit of work to do tonight. First of all, thanks to all the guys in the live chat. Great having you on, and enjoyed handicapping the Currie Cup with you guys. And to yourself, Gab, enjoy it. A half day for you tomorrow. I'm sure the wife will be happy to see you relaxing on a Friday afternoon instead of earning some money.
I am getting up early to watch South Africa play the cricket match at 6:30 against those Aussies. So, yes, I will be up early watching cricket tomorrow. They're not favourites, so there's a bit. I will be backing South Africa tomorrow morning. Otherwise, good sporting weekend. Looking forward to it. Happy, good. And I think this discussion on the handicaps and telling people what we think as well, I think that's actually not a bad way to do it as well. I think a lot of people probably benefit from this, especially if they don't know what the handicaps are, because we don't know. And I think that's good.
Yeah.
Enjoy the weekend.
So it's quite interesting. It's the same reason. It would be something that you could do. At one stage, I did it years ago with Super Rugby still. There was a guy in Australia, but the name escapes me now. But him and I did a couple of shows where he would actually come on the show. I think it was just, he didn't come on the video. He just came on it was just like his voice, and he would handicap the games and I would handicap, and we would compare them. And it's quite nice to have a bit of a meeting of the minds. And as I say, quite interesting in the Currie Cup, how different some of our handicaps are. And this game, I've got meetings tomorrow, but I'm going to make sure I'm in position for Pumas up against the Boerland Cavaliers. Absolutely no doubt about that. Gavin Cohen, the Oracle, great having you on as usual. Thanks to all the boys in the live chat. We'll see you next week for the handicap rugby chat.